Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. After the news today, because there is not a lot of news, we have literally one news story. Obviously, this is the very dead period of the NFL season. It's really bad right now. There's, obviously no camp stuff going on. There's just no news. So we're going to be making a lot of lists that are Dolphins related, and today's list, after we get through the news, is the best quarterback since Dan Marino retired. And I thought it would be a really fun list to kind of make. And we're going to go through it after we get you guys through the news you need to know about. We'll get right into that. So, again, like I said, there's not a lot of news to talk about. So this is literally it. Well, there's two things to kind of run through here really quickly. This first news story, the Dolphins have finalized their entire 2022 NFL draft class. Channing Tindall, Eric Ezukama, Cameron Good, and Skylar Thompson have all been signed to rookie deals. It's not really big news, but there you go. I forgot about Cameron Good when I was looking at this list. He's definitely going to have the biggest hill to climb out of the rest of the group. Ezukama, I think, actually has a lot of talent, and also honestly could be a really nice late round steal. I like his fit in this offense a lot. Big physical receiver, and they don't really have that other than Preston Williams, who isn't the most physical guy in the world. And Ezukama also brings a really nice red zone presence and really, really nice run after the catch ability, especially for someone his size. So he does bring a lot to the table that some of the other receivers just don't possess. So I think he could be a nice sleeper pick there. Obviously, Channing Tindall, it really depends on where his development is at. He's a very young player, and really didn't get too much playing time in college as much as some of his other teammates did. So his development, well, it's just going to kind of be a little bit shaky, and how fast he can kind of grow in this defense as a player. But physically, could potentially become a Pro Bowl level linebacker for sure. He has the physical tools to definitely do that. And Skylar Thompson, that I've talked about a million times. His college stuff is really nice. Obviously, dealt with a lot of injuries in college that really hurt his production. Didn't have the greatest team around him. But despite all that, has a lot of really nice things going for him in terms of his physical gifts. He's a really good athlete, really good arm. He is accurate, and he's a big athletic quarterback, so he fits the offense. So I really like Skylar Thompson as well. I think this could also be a potential really nice late-round pick for the Dolphins as well. So I really like this draft class. I really do. I thought the Dolphins did a good job for what they had. So there you go. The entire class has been signed. So this next news story is not much of a news story. Tyreek Hill again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Tyreek Hill addressed his effort to stay with Chiefs. They did an entire interview on Pro Football Talk. If you guys want to go watch the video, I think it's on YouTube. You could read it online too. It's a whole article. Basically, him and his agent talk about what really led to the separation between the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill. And he's been pretty upfront with that, and just a very short summary of it, because it's kind of what we've heard before. Obviously it was money related. The cap situation in Kansas City is obviously very interesting. They've got a lot of big time contracts on the books, of course. So it's interesting. Maybe one day we'll get the Chiefs side of it, because they definitely could have paid him the money that he wanted. Obviously, they didn't think that Tyreek Hill warranted that much money, which is kind of odd. But I would like to hear the Chiefs side of it, and what the GM was thinking at the time. Maybe we'll get that in years from now. But yeah, if you guys want to go check out that interview, I thought it was interesting for Dolphins fans to kind of look through it. And again, Reek and Tyreek Hill, he's been very upfront with, like I said, with all that stuff, and I think I'd rather him be upfront than lie about it. That it was a financial decision. And then there's this news story that nobody cares about. I think we might have talked about this last week. Tom Brady recently did an interview on the Dan Patrick Show. and they asked him about the Miami Dolphins connection. He didn't deny it. So there you go. I think that the whole Sean Payton, Tom Brady thing, that the Dolphins were trying to kind of mastermind and get together was real, and it would have been awesome. I mean, that would have been amazing if we were able to get Sean Payton and Tom Brady with this defense, and maybe they still get Tyreek Hill with Waddle and Gesicki, and still get Terran Armstead. Like, all that stuff would have been amazing. But I honestly think what they ended up doing anyway was fantastic. It's weird that the Brian Flores situation is the reason it gets blamed for it not working out. I don't think that was the real reason. Whatever it was, who knows what it really was. Maybe it was tampering. I don't know. Who knows? But it is an interesting situation. It's kind of funny that the Dolphins had kind of two shots at Saints organization members who made such a big impact on that organization. And the Sean Payton Dolphins thing has been rumored for a while, though. I feel like that's been something that so many people, Dolphins fans and beat writers, have talked about over the years. So it's kind of interesting to kind of think about if they were able to pull it off. But obviously that didn't end up working out. So that's it for the news, ladies and gentlemen. I told you, 6 minutes of news is actually kind of a miracle. That I even got through 6 minutes of news. I thought I was like, this is going to be like 3 seconds. So at least there was a little bit of something to talk about. Not really. So I don't know if I want to do the okay, we'll do the list first, and then we'll get into the fan Q&A to end the video. So this is my top 5 quarterbacks, the best quarterback since Dan Marino retired. This list was actually not hard to make, if you can believe it or not. There's not really any honorable mentions. I guess I have one. And I guess it's Gus Frerotte. I guess that would be my honorable mention. Everyone else, like, sucked. Chad Henne sucks. Who else was really here that did nothing? Tyler Thigpen. Shout out to Tyler Thigpen. Not very good, obviously. John Beck. Trent Green. There's a lot of guys in here. Jay Cutler, he would make a different list, but definitely not the best list. So yeah, this list was not tough to make because there's a lot of shout out to AJ Feely as well. This list, Brian Griese, who obviously his dad was obviously a great quarterback, but not so much him. But the point is that there's really not even any honorable mentions on this. The closest thing, like I said, is Gus had one good year where he went 9-6 with the team as the starting quarterback. So that was the closest thing I could get to an honorable mention. And if anybody would actually put him in the top 5, it would be an interesting argument to say the least. So this was a tough list at the bottom. Like the top 3 is easy. It wasn't hard. It was just hard to kind of arrange it. It wasn't hard to come up with a 5, but it was hard to arrange it. And hopefully Tua can. It's not going to be hard to crack this list. Hopefully, at the end of the day, Tua becomes, obviously, the guy that we want. He definitely is the most talented, I think, out of all of these guys. But it just kind of sucks to come back and look at, like, especially in the early 2000s, when you look at some of the teams that we had, and it just an absolute mess. Those teams could have definitely at least... They could have, at the very least, should have won multiple playoff games. And if you look at their competition, obviously Brady and Peyton, that era was dominated by those two. But outside of that, it wasn't crazy, especially in the early 2000s, where there kind of was a talent hole there. You had quarterbacks like Trent Dilfer winning championships, and who was for the Bucks who won the I'm blanking on his name, but there was a big window there that I think could have been filled by us, and definitely, I mean, you think about Rich Gannon and the Raiders made the Super Bowl. There was a huge, I think, opportunity there that the Dolphins kind of just didn't hit because of the bad quarterback play. And there's other teams, like the 2011 Dolphins, where it was a really good roster, and the quarterback play was just really bad. And there's just so many instances of that. And Jason Taylor, I mean, you think about all the great players that their careers were basically wasted. Anyway, it's very sad. Is basically looking back on some of this historical stuff with the Dolphins, but it is what it is. Hopefully, it turns around with Tua. And it was wild. One thing I will say, it was wild to go back and look at, like, okay, before Dan Marino, there was a lot of, like, obviously, like Woodley, Strzok. There was, and then obviously that kind of bridged the gap between Bob Greasy and Marino. But there was a lot of, like, before Marino, like, a lot of really stellar quarterback play. From a lot of different players, like even like Earl Merle, who people don't remember, but was a great quarterback for the Dolphins. All right, so let's get into. It just sucks that we couldn't keep that tradition going. Is basically what I'm saying. Especially, obviously, after the late '90s when Marino retired in '99. So let's get into this list. Coming in at number 5, this is really difficult to order this. But I figured that this particular player fits at number 5. So now at number 5, I have Matt Moore. Now, the reason he even made this list is he had 2 really nice years with the Dolphins, obviously taking over for Chad Henne in 2011, going on a 6-game winning streak, and really was fun to watch. I don't know if anybody remembers that season. Obviously, we started 0-7. It was a terrible start, very talented roster, and then Matt Moore takes over and kind of just plays really good football. At one point, we were up 17-0, I believe, in Gillette Stadium. If we had a better quarterback, that team was a playoff team easily. But Matt Moore, I thought, you know what? Obviously, the 6-game win streak in 2011, he put up nice stats. He threw... In 2011, when he took over, he went 16 of 9. He threw 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a 60 completion percentage. He went 6-6 as the Dolphins starter when he took over for Chad Henne. And had some really nice games there. And then obviously in 2016, went 2-1 and propelled the Dolphins to the playoffs, finishing that season with Adam Gase. He went 8-3, and that was the last time the Dolphins have won in Buffalo. To go to the playoffs. One of my favorite Dolphins games of the last 10 years. That game was amazing. We obviously ended up... God, I can't remember who... See, now I'm blanking on the kicker who made the field goal now. I apologize. Anyway, the point is it was a great game and helped us get to the playoffs and was the last quarterback to play in a playoff game for the Dolphins. So Matt Moore made the list. Really, really good backup quarterback for Miami. Over his tenure with the Dolphins. He had that crazy comeback in Sun Life Stadium against the Jets. He's got a lot of, like, not iconic, but, like, really good Dolphins moments for the last 10 years. So that's why he made the list. His run in 2016 and his run in 2011. And obviously he's come in for some injured quarterbacks and played some really nice games as well. So Matt Moore at number 5. And before we leave Matt Moore, I want to bring up the career record. Matt Moore went 8-9 as a Dolphins starter and quarterback. He went 8-9. He played in 17 games, which actually is a pretty nice little win percentage there, especially for some of the other guys that were in contention, I guess you could say, to make this list. So yeah, Matt Moore at number 5, a beloved Dolphins player. I think a lot of fans like him, yeah. Was never better than Tannehill. I mean, if you go back and look at some of that stuff, it's actually kind of wild that there was some movement at one point for Matt Moore to play over Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, that happened, everybody. Alright, so let's move on to number 4. This was kind of, once you get to 4 through 4-1, I feel like it's got a lot easier. 5 was difficult because it's like, who deserves to really be on this list? And I think Matt Moore was the easy choice there. But at 4, we have Ryan Fitzpatrick. I almost put him higher on this list, but I talked myself out of it because the win-loss actually is there. It just, I don't know. He almost made 3. But I couldn't do it. And honestly, me sitting here thinking about it, I probably should have done it, but I feel like 4 is a good spot for him. Obviously, he didn't play in Miami that long. He only played 2 seasons here. So that was kind of going against him. But Ryan Fitzpatrick definitely deserves to make this list. helmed a top 10 passing offense, which you can't say for a lot of other quarterbacks on this list. I think we finished in the top 10, but for a while there we were in the top 10 in passing. His first year in a Dolphins uniform, he went 20-13. Helped completely turn around that season, and finished really strong. Obviously, the game-winning drive in Gillette Stadium is by far probably the best moment out of, probably I would say second best moment out of any quarterback that any quarterback had on this list. That was a sick drive. Obviously ended a 10-year drought in winning in Gillette Stadium. He was really fun to watch. He was a very efficient quarterback. While he was with the Dolphins, he had a 68, almost a 70 completion percentage, which is the highest out of anyone on this list, believe it or not. Yeah, he was a really fun to watch his 2 years in Miami. When you go back and look at his 2020, it's interesting. He went 13 of 8. I forgot how many interceptions Fitz threw that season. I don't know why I forgot that. He went 4-3 as the Dolphins starter that year, obviously only playing 7 games, which is crazy to think this man threw 8 picks in 7 games. So maybe it's weird to remember. It's like, was Fitz actually better than Tua at that point? I guess, I don't know. I just completely forgot about that. But anyway, Fitz is a number 4. Okay, and obviously Matt Moore I don't think is better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. And definitely could not have won 10 games with Matt Moore, and obviously Fitz did that. He went 10-6. And he finished his career as a Dolphin in terms of his win-loss with one of the better ones on this list. He went 9-11 as a Dolphins starter, which isn't bad, especially considering the fact that we were trying to lose his first year in Miami. And before we move on, a few more things about Fitz. Great teammate, great leader. Obviously, you could tell the teammates, probably the most beloved teammate on this list, other than maybe one other player. Just so fun to watch play. He really was efficient. Was actually playing high-level football in both of the years that he played in Miami. He had like over a 70 completion percentage against the Jaguars on Thursday Night Football. Had a ton of iconic games when you think about the game against the Eagles and the crazy special teams play, the Raiders game, in Gillette Stadium, having the game-winning drive to win that game. Fitz was really just one of the better quarterbacks and some of the best quarterback play that we've seen since Dan Marino retired. So that's what he was for. I almost moved him up to 3. I was close to doing it, but I felt like there just wasn't enough there. Like the sample size is just a little too low. Fitz obviously went 9-11 and had a 10-game. By the way, excuse me. Let me back up. I'm getting too ahead of myself. Put up a 10-6 record was obviously a huge reason why we got to 10 wins that year. What else did I want to say? About Fitz. Okay, here we go. Finished 9-11 as a Dolphin. 9-11 win-loss as a Dolphins quarterback and starter. And obviously that record would have been a lot better if we weren't trying to lose in 2019. And what else do I want to say? Went 20-13, 20 touchdowns to 13 interceptions, where a lot of people said that roster was one of the worst they've ever seen. That's not necessarily true. It's definitely not one of the worst football rosters I've ever seen, but it's still impressive that he had a efficient season and a really nice touchdown interception season as well. And then he went 8 touchdowns to 3 interceptions his last year. I don't know why I thought he threw, am I reading this wrong? 13, my bad. I'm so sorry, guys. He went 13-8. I was like, what, did I get my stats wrong? But no, he went 13-8 his final year in Miami, and his efficiency was actually really good. He was almost throwing a 70 completion percentage. So the interceptions to touchdown numbers are a little skewed, but he was actually having a really good season. He went 4-3 as a Dolphins starting quarterback his last year in Miami. So a lot of really nice moments. The blowout against the 49ers on the road. He just had a lot of really good games. Fitz did, and like I said, I almost moved him higher. So let's get to number 3. Now, if it wasn't for this man getting carried Like, I mean, carried by a really, really talented Dolphins defense for many years. He wouldn't have even been on this list. He probably would have been 5 just because of how bad all the other quarterbacks were. But this man was carried hardcore and honestly hurt the Dolphins. And this is why I almost made him 4. The next quarterback is Jay Fiedler. Now, the reason he hurt the Dolphins, in my opinion, is if we had better quarterback play, we would have won more games. But if you look at Jay Fiedler's resume as a Dolphins quarterback, it's pretty good, even though it was more of a team effort than obviously an individual effort. But I don't know. It was close. And I think really what it came down to is his sample size was a lot bigger than obviously Fitz's. But the reason Fiedler made the list was really his win-loss, and it was not him necessarily, it was the team, like I said. But Jay Fiedler, as the Dolphins starting quarterback, won 36 games and only lost 23. So that's obviously more than 10 games over 500. His win percentage was really good, but it was more the team. Like I said, it was more of a team effort than an individual effort. That's why he is as low as he is. And here is a good example of that. If you look at his stats, as the Dolphins starting quarterback, his first year starting, he threw 14 interceptions to 14 touchdowns. His second year starting as the Dolphins, the starting Dolphins quarterback, he went 20 for 19. So he threw 20 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. His third year, 14 and 9. His last year, basically as the Dolphins starting quarterback, he went 11 of 13. So again, the man wasn't even taking care of the football. Okay, his interception numbers were really high. His completion percentage was abysmal. It was terrible, putting up a 57, 60, and 61. So it wasn't like he was even taking care of the football. His yards in those years starting 2000, literally 2,400 yards, 3,200 yards, 2,000 yards. Jay Fiedler's individual numbers are god-awful, ladies and gentlemen. They're terrible. And I guess and honestly, like I said, you can make an argument that this man shouldn't even be over Fitz because of that. He was more harm to the team than good, okay? This man wasn't even a game manager. Now, and again, this man went to 2 playoff games. Okay, won one of them, obviously beating Peyton Manning, and that was more Lamar Smith than anything. But that was the last Dolphins victory in the playoffs, was in 2000. But if you look at his playoff stats, God, dude. In 2000, in the playoffs, he threw 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. Dude, see, this is what I'm talking about, Jay Fiedler. He might be 4. And he might be, you can make an argument that he's 5 just because this man was the anchor, bogging down a very talented Dolphins roster. And again, the offensive line was good, and the run game was good when Jay Fiedler was there, and he had a good defense. And I will repeat that stat, ladies and gentlemen. He had a 52 completion percentage in the 2000 Miami Dolphins playoffs. He threw 6 interceptions and only 1 touchdown. When he went back to the playoffs the following year, he had a 53 completion percentage, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Okay? It's not great. Yards attempt, and listen to this. His yards attempt in 2000 was barely a 5. Okay, this man was barely throwing 5 yards an attempt in the playoffs. It was god-awful. So Jay Fiedler, the positive is more of a team effort, and I think people remember him positively because of those talented Dolphins teams. Not necessarily him, but it kind of blows my mind that people remember this man fondly. His resume is better in terms of a win-loss, and that has nothing to do with him. It was more of an individual effort thing, or team effort than it was an individual effort. And Jay Fiedler, the only reason he's number 3 on this list is because of the record, and he just played more as a Dolphins quarterback than Fitz did. And he was a part of some good football teams. And he was the last quarterback to win a playoff game for the Miami Dolphins, even though he played terribly in that game. He literally, in the playoffs as a whole, 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions. It's pretty bad. So moving on from that, we go to our number 2 on the list, and this is obviously a lot, I guess, more positive. But coming in number 2 is Chad Pennington. I don't know. It's interesting to see where people would rank him on a list like this. But I put him number 2. He only played 2 seasons with the Dolphins and only had 1 season with the Dolphins that was worth talking about. He played 3 seasons. I misspoke. 3 seasons with the Dolphins, and only, like I said, only really had 1 season where he played. And obviously dealt with a ton of injuries throughout his career. But that 1 season he had was one of the best Dolphins, if not the best quarterback season a Dolphins quarterback has had since Dan Marino. He won Comeback Player of the Year that year. I don't remember if he went to the Pro Bowl. If somebody remembers, leave that down in the comment section. He went 11-5, and again, this is really only 1 year. This is the reason he made the list and why he's so high is because of 1 year. And he would have been 1 if he could have consistently done this, but obviously it's such a small sample size. But the year that we're talking about was 2008. We went 11-5. Obviously, that was the Wildcat year. We ended up making the playoffs, and then he played terrible in the playoff game against the Ravens. But he had a phenomenal year. And one of the best Dolphins games of the last 20 years he played in was that road victory against the Jets and Brett Favre, where the Dolphins won by 1 touchdown. That was a really nice game. And just a really nice year by Chad Pennington. It was a legitimately really good season for a quarterback. He had a 67 completion percentage. He threw 19 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards passing. It was an insanely efficient season. It really, really was. Excuse me, I read that wrong. He had 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Just a really, really nice, efficient season for him. His yards attempt weren't great. We all know that. He wasn't really going downfield. It was a 7. He was throwing 7 yards an attempt, which isn't terrible. It's actually pretty good. I didn't actually... Is that right? 7 yards... Yeah, 7 yards attempt was actually better than I thought it would be, which is crazy. Yards a game, he had 228 yards a game. His quarterback rating that year was a 97.4. So just a really nice, efficient season. Played all 16 games that season, which is I think he only did that one other time as a starting quarterback. But yeah, shout out to Chad Pennington. Had a really, really good season. Arguably, and honestly, I probably would say it, the best season any Dolphins quarterback has had since Dan Marino. And Chad Pennington finished his career in Miami. In terms of win-loss, he won 12 games as a Dolphin starter and lost 8. He went 12-8 as a Dolphin, as a Miami Dolphin. Played 3 years here. Really only had the 1 season though that he played a lot or played good in 2008 and played a lot. The following years, if you guys are interested, I guess I'll just throw that in here too. He played 3 games the next year. He started 3 games the next year, and only played 3 games the next year. And then in 2010, played 1 game, won that game, and then we never saw him again after that. So yeah, there you go, Chad Pennington. Just to recap, went 19-7, had a 67 completion percentage, finished 12-8 as a Miami Dolphins starting quarterback, and also had a 7 yards per attempt that year, which is not terrible. Did not have a good playoffs though. The playoff game against the Ravens was pretty bad. He threw 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions, and had a 65 completion percentage. Could not push the ball down the field. And honestly, if you go back and watch that game, at least on the line of scrimmage, the Dolphins were dominating, and it's very unfortunate that we couldn't get a little bit better quarterback play in that game, because I think we were the better team and should have won that game. The Ed Reed pick 6, all of that stuff was just, if we had a better quarterback, he just had an awful game that game. But again, like I said, is by far probably the best season Dolphins quarterback has had since Dan Marino. And coming in at number 1, and the reason he's number 1 is I just think statistically he's better than everybody else on this list. Physically, he's more talented and showed that on the field. It wasn't the reason he didn't have more wins as the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins was because of everything around him. I think he's proved that since we've traded him, and that is Ryan Tannehill. I think Tannehill is honestly head and shoulders above everyone else when it comes to who is the best quarterback since Dan Marino. If you look at his stats, his best years, he went 27 of 12. No other quarterback on this list had over 20 touchdowns. Tannehill was the only one to do it in 2014, and not only did he have 27 touchdowns in 2014, he did it 2 other times where he had a year where he threw over 20 touchdowns. He had 2 4,000-yard passing seasons, which no other quarterback on this list can say. He sported a 92 quarterback rating in 2014. Multiple seasons with over 60 completion percentage. Almost had a 70 completion percentage in 2016. Had a 10-win year in 2016, even though he couldn't finish the season. Matt Moore had to win the other 3, but he definitely probably would have won more games, honestly, than Matt Moore did. So yeah, Tannehill, I think, is by far the best quarterback on this list. It's not even close, especially from a statistical standpoint. If you want to bring in wins into this, it's not a valid argument. Jay Fiedler is not better than Tannehill. Chad Pennington is not better than Tannehill. He had 1 good year. That's it. His other years in Miami were not good. His playoff game was not good. Tannehill, I think, in my opinion, is head and shoulders above those guys, especially as a quarterback. If we were going to start a team and this was the draft pool, if you didn't pick Tannehill, you need to get psychiatric help. There's an argument to be had, and again, this is if you get the career of all of these guys. So Chad Pennington's shoulder is still going to get hurt. So if you had a choice between all of these quarterbacks, Jay Fiedler, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Tannehill, Chad Pennington, and Matt Moore, I think you would go with Ryan Tannehill 10 times out of 10. So in my opinion, Tannehill is the best quarterback since Dan Marino. The only argument against him is obviously he didn't win as many games as he probably could have, and it's not his fault. The organization, when you talk about Bullygate, the Dolphins did an awful job of surrounding him with talent, especially early on. It's one of the worst offensive lines we've ever seen. Some really bad defenses sprinkled in there as well. Bad coaching for the most part. When you think about some of the coaches he had, it just wasn't great with Joe Philbin, Adam Gase. It was not good all the way around. We had Jeff Ireland as his GM. He had Dennis Sickey and Chris Greer. It just was a very dysfunctional situation for Tannehill. But despite all of that, put up really, really good numbers. Like, really, by far the best numbers out of any quarterback on this list. And then obviously he went on to Tennessee and just put up really insanely good numbers. He went on to have a 70 completion percentage year with the Titans and threw 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So by far the most talented quarterback on this list, statistically by far the best quarterback on this list, and when you think about sample size, he played longer than anybody else on this list did as the Dolphins starting quarterback. And yeah, so Tannehill, not a lot of great memories of Tannehill. I think obviously the best memory would have to be probably, I would say the best memory of Tannehill, at least for me, there's a couple plays that stand out, like the really long run in 2013 on the road in Heinz Field in the snow against the Steelers. There's a lot of really nice plays, but I think the game that stands out is obviously the Miracle in Miami. And yeah, that's my list. So at number 5 I have Matt Moore. At number 4 I have Ryan Fitzpatrick. At number 3 I have Jay Fiedler. At number 2 I have Chad Pennington. And at number 1, I have Ryan Tannehill. I would love to know what you guys' lists are. I'm going to do more of these lists. This list is... I can't wait to do the next one, which is the 5 worst quarterbacks since Dan Marino retired, and Dolphins since Dan Marino retired, which I'm really excited to do. Because I definitely want to let out some steam on that one. But, yeah, this list was interesting, and it's interesting to see how many failures the Dolphins have had at that position since Marino retired in 1999. So if you guys please, I know this video is not going to get a ton of views, and if you've made it this far, God bless you, but please put your list down in the comment section below. I'd love to read them. Alright, so let's move on to the fan Q&A to end the video. Sorry guys, I'm just Throat's all clogged up. And again, sorry about the audio quality. When I was making this list and writing this stuff down, I was like, this sucks, because I wish the audio quality was a little bit better. But I love talking about the history of the league and the history of obviously the Miami Dolphins. It's really fun. It's probably my favorite thing to do. And you know, if you guys want to go check out the video, I made it in the best Dolphins starting offense of all time. I made a whole an hour-long podcast about it, and it was really fun to do. If you guys want to go check that out, if you guys like historic Dolphins content. I never did the defense. I never did the all-time great Dolphins defense, which would be really hard to do, because the Dolphins have had some really talented defensive players over the years, like a lot of them, like some all-time great seasons too. That would be really, really, really tough to make it the best 11. That front seven would be so mean, it's unreal. The Dolphins' all-time front seven is up there with some of the best ever. Like, just a lot of, like, a lot of versatile players, too. And their secondary would be insane. And the linebacker crew would be insane. That defense would be so hard to kind of to nail that down. The safeties would be really hard to do. I don't think any modern Dolphins would make the list. Maybe Cameron Wake would make it. And when I say modern, I guess Jason Taylor would be counted. Yeah, so I mean, obviously Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor. But 2010s wise, this was what I meant to say. I don't think any Dolphins player would make it defensively. I think I had one 2010s player that made the offense. If you guys want to know who that is, you're gonna have to watch the video. I'm not gonna give it away here, but yeah, on defense, I don't think anyone makes it of this decade. I don't think Cameron Wake makes it, honestly. Anyway, let's get into the fan Q&A. I really do want to do that. I gotta finish that. It would just be very difficult to make. So this first question comes from TR3MC. He says, is it possible that Tannehill can be used similar to Tannehill? I'm so sorry. He wrote Hill, and I was thinking of Tannehill. Let me restart the question. This first question comes from TR3MC. He says, is it possible that Hill, I almost did it again, can be used similar to Coach McDaniel's Debo in San Francisco, being that they are built alike, and Hill's agent thought KC wasn't utilizing all of his talents? I've seen other people bring this up, that, you could use Debo, or excuse me, you could use Tyreek Hill like he used Debo in San Francisco. They are not even remotely the same type of human being. Debo is unlike anything I've ever seen. Same thing with Tyreek Hill, but for a different reason. He is a phenomenal receiver. When you talk about route running, hands, run after the catch, it's all there. He's a deep threat as well. He can go 0 to 60 in as fast as anybody in the league. But he could be an all-pro starting receiver and an all-pro starting running back. His vision is kind of crazy. It's because vision as a running back is different than vision as a receiver, because you got all these big dudes in front of you, and you got to read what's right. And to have that innate feel is very rare. For Debo to have both of those, the ability to be a great receiver and a great running back, is unheard of. So Tyreek doesn't have the ability to do those things. Now, can he catch a jet sweep and a touch pass, and you can throw him a screen, and he can take it to the house better than anybody in the NFL? Yes, he can. But he's not the physical run after the catch player that Debo is. You can't hand the ball off to Tyreek Hill in between the tackles. You know, first of all, it wouldn't be smart to do that, but he's just not a big human being like Debo is. So every time I've heard someone say that, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me. You can't use them both. You can't use Tyreek Hill like you can use Debo Samuel. They're just completely different players. But you can use Reek in the run game. It just would be more of a more traditional way to use a receiver in the run game. Like I said, with jet sweeps and maybe some touch passes. You could fake a play action pass to Tyreek Hill in the backfield as he motions in. You can do some of that stuff, but you can't do the stuff that the Niners did. You know, you're not going to toss the ball. Maybe you could do some outside zone stuff with Reek. but you just couldn't do some of the inside stuff with Debo that you could do with Reek. They're just completely different human beings. Plus, like I said, I wouldn't want Reek to be that involved in the run game, unless it was like the occasional jet sweep or something like that. Because, which I'm sure that I think Waddle will be used more in the run game than Hill will. But either way, both of these guys I don't want to be taking too many handoffs because they are not big people, and I do not need them to be injured. So I think us as fans definitely don't want to see that. But the only reason I would say to answer your question, TR3MC, that is they're just built different, and I don't mean, I mean physically. They literally are built different, and their skills on the football field are much different from each other. So that is why I think you can't use Hill and Debo the same way. This next question comes from Steve. He says, if Tua proves he is the franchise quarterback this season, what positions do you feel the team will draft with 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick? It's hard to say right now, Steve, because we don't know the failures of the team, like who's not going to play well. Is there a hole here or there? Hopefully it's more of a luxury pick. Maybe they can package that in some kind of deal to go out and get a big-time veteran player. That's maybe like 25, 26, 27. Who knows? Someone's mad. They go out and get him. Like Justin Jefferson from the Vikings. Maybe he wants out of the Minnesota situation. But, sorry, because the throat is all over the place right now. What was I saying? What was the question? Sorry, Steve. Oh, if Tua becomes the franchise quarterback, what do we use? Like I said, it would just be a luxury thing. Steve, the next question comes from Steve. He says, week 1 of the regular season, what does the final roster look like at the running back and linebacker positions? Week 1 of the regular season. It's a great question, Steve. I think it is going to be running back by committee, but I think probably Chase Edmonds will be the starter. And in terms of linebackers, because Raheem Mostert's coming off the injury. If he wasn't coming off an injury, I would say Chase Edmonds. Or, excuse me, Raheem Mostert. I think he would be the starter. But at the linebacker position, I think probably Jerome and then Atlanta Roberts in different packages. I don't think Channing's going to be... He's going to be more a utility guy, a Swiss Army knife. I think you're going to see him in spying quarterbacks a lot. In blitz packages, I think you're going to see him a lot. But I don't think Channing's going to start. I think you're going to see him a lot in coverage as well. I think you're going to see less of that from Van Ginkel, which is a good thing. So those are some of the things I think you can see Channing do, but I don't think he'll be a starting linebacker. This next question comes from TR3MC again. He says, can defense actually stop Miami with 2 speed guys on the outside like Hill and Waddle, who can stretch the field on both sides? And another thing that they do, because they can take jet sweeps and touch passes as well, they stretch the field from every angle as much as it can be stretched. So that gives a lot of space for other offensive players to work in, which is, I think, the biggest effect on the field that they have, is they make everyone around them better. And I think that's the biggest benefit from their speed. So it opens up so many possibilities for Mike McDaniel. You could tell that was a big priority of his, to get faster with this offense, so he can do and open up more lanes and give him more space for some of the run stuff he wants to do. So, yeah, I think the biggest sorry guys, I think the biggest benefit is that they help everybody on it opens up more space for everybody to work in and makes everybody on the team better. This last question comes from Steve. Shout out to Steve and TR3MC for leaving questions. It means a lot. It really, really does. He says, do you think Mike McDaniel could be a long-term coach for the Dolphins, or do you think he is just a stopgap per se for someone like Coach Payton? The only reason he would be a stopgap for Coach Sean Payton is who he's talking about. Is the only reason he would be a stopgap is if lost my train of thought. Is if he fails. I don't think he's meant to be that. I don't think he'll fail. I think the best. And again, I wasn't even for the whole hire when it was happening. I was Brian Daboll or bust. But when you actually do your research on Mike McDaniel, and I think the thing that impresses me the most about him is just everybody who's ever coached or played under him has been coached by him are like it's literally all positive. It's overly positive, and I think that's a great sign of any coach is when your players speak for you. I think it's very rare, honestly. Not many coaches can say that in the league. So no, the only reason he would be is if he fails. Now, here's what I will say. I don't know if his leash is necessarily long. I think if Sean Payton comes back next year and, let's say the Dolphins don't do as well as they think they will, I could see I could definitely see this organization looking. I mean, as as we've seen with some of the decisions Stephen Ross has made, I could definitely see them kind of maybe probing that a little bit. But this team is so good, and I think the coaching staff is phenomenal. I think this is the best coaching staff I've seen, up and down. And dude, it's such a talented staff, and it's such a talented roster. I think Mike McDaniel is going to be the head coach for this team for a long time. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would love to know what your top 5 quarterbacks since Dan Marino are, what your list look like. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one.